Okay, so I'm super excited today. I got Mike Percopo with Percopo Coatings. Am I saying that right? Coatings?
Yeah, Percopo Coatings Company, PCC.
Okay. And where are you located, Mike?
Our corporate office is in Longwood, has been since 2003. We have an office in Sarasota and a satellite office in Tampa.
Okay,
We
so
service the entire southeastern U.S. from those locations. So we go as far north as North Carolina, as far west as Texas and Oklahoma.
wow, that's quite a distance there.
We travel with a select group of clients. We don't just go there to work with anybody, but we do have some select clients that we have excellent relationships with that we're able to service, and we have people located in certain strategic locations. So we do it more strategically than with a shotgun approach.
Very good. So, kind of tell me the story of the first. Tell us what it is that you do. What is your company known for,
So
and how did you get started?
we've got a group of elite clients that we work for. We work for an elite group of general contractors and owners, national brand owners, everyday names that consumers know, and elite group of general contractors. Some are regional, some are national, some are even international. But we work for some of the most difficult ones, biggest ones, the hardest ones to work for, but the ones that we know are good, solid companies that are going to pay us. And we do painting and coating, waterproofing, resinous, seamless flooring, a little bit of fireproofing and intumescent coatings, and restoration, concrete repairs, restoration type work as well. So that group of trades we specialize in. We don't dabble in it. We self-perform it. We own a lot of expensive equipment to perform all that work that I just mentioned, and we work on a lot of high-profile projects as well. As we kind of have a saying for those clients we work for, if you're our client, if it's big enough or important enough for you, it's important enough for us. So there's really no limit to the size project we do. It could be $50,000 or $5 million, but if it's important enough to our clients, it's important enough to us.
Absolutely, and I don't know if you're even permitted to drop names, but your website has some pretty impressive work that you've done. Can you share any of that, just so the listeners know the scale of the work you do?
Yeah, well, we're fortunate enough, and even throughout my career, PCC is 22 years old. Even before that, I was involved in some of the Central Florida and throughout the state of Florida, some pretty fun, high-profile projects. As far as permitted to, if we got real specific, if it was a project that was underway and there was an NDA, then there's some of those we can't talk about. But everything from work for the Orlando Magic, the New York Yankees, the international airports, Orlando, Tampa, Sarasota, Fort Myers, Jacksonville, all large major airports. We're doing a renovation right now of Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee for FSU Seminoles. We do work for University of Central Florida, University of Florida, a lot of high-profile theme park projects in most of the major theme parks, both in Orlando and Tampa. So yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff. A lot of, you can drive up and down the I-4 corridor or I-75 and just about anywhere in Florida, and you're going to probably within a few miles of each other pass a project that we've been fortunate enough to be a part of.
To me, absolutely fascinating. And you were telling me in the very beginning, before we turned on the record button, that you pretty much bootstrapped this thing in the very beginning. Can you tell us that story and how you
Yeah, so I
created?
started PCC in 2003. I had worked for another contractor that was really out of Ohio. They had an office here. They weren't really sure what they were doing. They were a hotel renovation contractor. They did some large painting contracts when that wasn't firing all cylinders out of Ohio. They did flooring. I worked my way into that company and up through the ranks to vice president and had a minority ownership, was on the board, kind of organized it into 3 working divisions, and then left there in 2003. Not necessarily unexpectedly, but it was something that I kind of didn't have a lot of time to really work out. So I started PCC on bootstraps or whatever expression you want to use, really on credit cards. I had some really good relationships and some people that I was fortunate enough that helped me get work right away. So I immediately had plans and could fill up a couple rooms full of plans, and used to do it the old-fashioned way. I used to go out and get the work, estimate the work, sell the work, manage the work, even sometimes do some of the work. And then through the years, we brought in some really good people that have helped us develop to where we are today. And without that, none of it would have been possible. But I have some people that have been with me from the very beginning, some that would still be if they hadn't retired. A few unfortunately passed away, but we've got a great group of people and some people in the office here that have really made the difference in the last several years to take us to to the level we're at today.
Very good. Now, along the way, we all have these rise and falls. Has it been kind of a meteoric rise for your company? I mean, it has been steady.
As a company, we've been super fortunate. We've never gone backwards. We've always gone up incrementally. Anticipate that always being the case. We still have some growth left in us, but we may find a point where we say this is a good sweet spot to level out. I think it's more of a mix of work than necessarily a volume that, hey, we have to be at 60, 70, 80 million dollars a year before we're happy. I think it's a mix of the right kind of work, and wherever that levels out, it is. But we've been fortunate that because we're diverse and we're specialized and we can package the trades that we do, which is very desirable. It gives us the advantage to never really run out of work. If something's slow, we can something else might be busy. The sectors we work in, the people we work for, those all play a huge part in us staying steady and successful. And we've always kind of been built to expand or contract as needed. But we've been pretty fortunate. We've always had year-over-year growth and never really taken too much of a step back even through. We started in a recession, and we've gone through a couple other since then, some big ones. 2003 was one we started, then 2008 was another big one, and we've had some other kind of not so great economic times during the years of the last 22 years. But we've been fortunate enough to be able to figure out how to navigate that.
Good. Now, if I recall, you mentioned the states that you've done work in. Most of them are somewhat southern. Is that strategic for weather and things like that for you?
Yeah, I think that's what we know. I mean, I grew up in Connecticut. I left there when I was 18. I came to Florida about 4 or 5 years after leaving there. And so I'm really a southern boy at heart. Sometimes my New England accent might take over, or you might hear some of that. But it's, this stuff's done a little bit differently in the South. There's different regions of the country, construction is done differently. For example, large commercial painting projects here are done a certain way. If you go to Texas or other states, the painter might finish the drywall, and that might be part of the process. Everybody has their certain types of finishes are real important here because we have Disney, we have high-end hotels, we have tourism. So I think the South is definitely strategic, and it's also that there's so much. I mean, this is the best part of the country as far as growth and the economy. So there's no shortage of work.
Sure.
We don't really have any interest to go to any further north or any further out west at this time. But
Yeah.
you never know.
Very good. Yeah, I moved to Florida 25 years ago from Ohio. And at the last day of September, I thought I died and landed in heaven. The weather was great. The humidity wasn't too bad. Come June, I thought I'd live in someplace else. But, you do acclimate after a while. You get used to this.
We have, I always tell people, we have 6 months. I've been here for going on my 33rd year. I think we have 6 months of paradise and 6 months of some pretty rough weather. But, every place has some bad times. I mean, even up north, I think from Washington, D.C., north is worse in the summertime than it is here even. And growing up in Connecticut can have some pretty uncomfortable summer days. But they don't last as long, but.
True. Absolutely true.
I think that's part of what hopefully keeps a few people away. We've got.
Yeah.
We don't want everybody.
It's too hot for you. Stay out.
Yeah.
Stay out. We got enough traffic. Yeah, absolutely. So in your growth pattern with your company, were there certain defining moments where there was a shift that you had to make, either towards expansion, adding equipment, personnel, anything like that come into mind?
Yeah, there's always milestones and times when you're first starting out, you're worried about getting paid. And I always immediately worked for, most of our business is a pay when paid type of contract with large projects, unless we're working directly for owners, or certain renovation rehab projects are different. But so you're really always worried about the money, right? And getting paid and making payroll and keeping your family fed and all those things. So you're really tight on how you do things and the equipment you buy and investments you make. But the more successful you are, the more you're able to invest, and the more you're able to invest, the more successful you become, because you're more of an asset to your clients, and there's things that you can do that other people can't do. So yeah, there's definitely been incremental periods where we've invested in equipment, we invest in our people first and foremost, but we own a lot of expensive equipment to do some of the stuff that we do.
I'm sure. And then, as far as your competition, is it vast? Do you have a lot of competition in what you do at your scale?
We have some pretty good competition in some markets and in some things we do. What eliminates our competition. A lot of times it's just the ability to keep up with the requirements of the people we work for. There's a lot of not only insurance and higher insurance limits and umbrellas and things like that you don't have in certain markets and certain construction, commercial or industrial markets. But there's also the regulations and the amount of paperwork and the amount of personnel it takes to perform that. So there's a limited group of competitors. Some of them very good and have a lot of respect for. The not so good ones kind of get weeded out, pretty quickly. I kind of have the mindset that there's enough work for everybody in their own niche and their own marketplace. We can't do 100% of everybody's work, just would be impossible. And we want to have really good relationships with a select group of people and try and do as much of their work as we can.
That's very good. Now, does work just find you or you find it?
We're very fortunate in that respect. Work does find us because of our reputation, because of our performance, our past performance. We're not perfect by any means. We have our challenges, we make our mistakes. It's just how we respond to them that makes us different, I think, and how we overcome those challenges. And again, I can't take credit for that. The team and the people that we have are constantly evolving, and all we can try and do is give them the tools to do it with. But there is a certain amount of business development we'll try and do and create relationships and find work in certain locations, but we're very fortunate that we're invited to most of the work that we end up being able to do.
Right. I would imagine like just the PR of the projects and the people that you'd had to connect to get those projects are relationships that probably lead out to future business for you.
Yeah, all the organizations we belong to work really when you're in the heat of battle and you're doing a project that's fast-paced, high-intensity, tight schedule. One of two things either happen. Either you make some good relationships, the good relationships come out of it from the fact that you performed and you did the right thing and you were a stand-up guy, or it's going to go the other way. And fortunately, most of the time it's gone the first way, where we've come out of it with some good relationships, and usually people appreciate that, and they know that they can count on you, hopefully, and that they're good people to work for, and that's where you really succeed.
Absolutely. So now you've taken a business from nothing to pretty sizable. I don't want to state the number, you'd have to state it. And you've had to have grown as a CEO along the way. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, the titles. I've only recently assumed the title of CEO. I'm really not big on titles. It's kind of funny. I was vice president for the majority of the time, not by anything other than but choice, and it was kind of always a way to make it seem like I had somebody else to answer to, kind of that, I wasn't necessarily the one that was capable of making the final decision, which was kind of by choice and by design. But yeah, I've evolved. Emotionally, I'm very passionate. I truly want to do the right thing by our clients and by our employees and our team, but sometimes passion and your temper can get to you, and especially when money's on the line.
Sure.
You're trying to collect money that people owe you, and you want to make sure you're paying all your bills. So as you get older and mature and things settle down, all those things change. I never really had bad days or days where I lost my temper or had emotional days because of just for having them. They're always associated to, something to do, either money related, project related. I always like to refer to, there's a scene from a show, actually a series, I won't quote it exactly, but we work in a very emotionally driven business, and every day is filled with highs and lows.
Yeah.
For our entire team. Some of the people in the office don't see it as much, but anybody that's involved in the field and estimating or anything to do with a project, you can have extreme highs and extreme lows in the same hour. It's crazy. It's just one phone call or something happens and all hell breaks loose, and 99% of the time it's something that really didn't have to get escalated to that point, but it's emotions getting involved, and you figure it out, and then the next day everything's great again. But it's a business of not constant crisis, I don't want to say that, but there's constant sense of urgency for the most part. So
Correct. And I can imagine too, with clients, particularly the demanding ones, are more likely to notice something that was a little awry than the 99 other things that was absolutely well above their expectation, right? They'll notice this one little thing over here off to the side. So I can imagine that has its own stress involved in that.
Yeah. Paraphrasing Tony Robbins, who I spent a lot of time studying and meeting at events and things. He has a saying something to do with your emotional bank account. I mean, you can make 12 positive deposits in someone's emotional bank account and do 12 things great, and it's that one thing that's not so great, and it just withdraws all those positive deposits.
All the credit gone. Mm-hmm.
But,
Absolutely.
unfortunately, that happens, and it's something you can't control. People are not perfect. People make mistakes. It's just, again, it's how you react to them, how you respond, and how you recover.
Yeah. Now, although you run the company and you don't like that title, I won't say it. Do you find yourself more of an operations slant as far as how your mind works?
No, I'm really a starter. I wish I was more of a finisher. I can finish things and I can put my head to the books and my head down and muscle through it and run a project and take it all the way to the end. But it's not what I love doing. I mean, I get involved and I like helping and solving problems and get involved on the technical side and on the estimating and business development side. I get our architects, engineers, owners, people call me all the time, which I love. I take it as a huge compliment because they've had success with us and they want to know, hey, I've got this problem, how can I solve it? Or, I'm having this issue on the current project. Do you have any ideas or anything that you can think of? Or I'm writing spec. What do you think? Does this make sense? What I really, and just visions. I love that. And then I try and hire the people to finish that are running the operations. I get involved in the operations still, but it's not necessarily a time of crisis or when something goes wrong, but it's in strategic increments or strategic entry and exit point, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you're kind of forging the path, and whoever you got to meet along the way, and you kind of grease the wheel, and then the team comes through and carries through on the delivery of things.
Yeah, more or less.
Sort of like that. Yeah, good. It serves you well, but I also could see that you doing it allows you to have those connections with all those big clients, so that if something was good or bad or whatever, you're in the loop, even though you're not mechanically involved in running the operations team to get it handled, but you know what's going on. So I can.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I think sometimes people don't think I know what's going on, but even if I don't know or they don't really think I know, I have a pretty good idea and usually can jump right in with just a little briefing or just being brought up to speed on the most current events.
Did you tell Mike that?
I typically know what's going on.
Very good. Very good. And so then with your company and how you've been able to grow this, where do you want to take it? You said, maybe you don't want to go to some massive, huge thing, double what you're doing or whatever you want to do now. Are you looking at what the horizon looks like for the next 5 or 10 years with your company and where you'd like to take it?
As far as where it's going to end up, I don't know. That could even be out of my hands. It's almost something that it's like a train rolling down the track. I only have so much control over it some days. Obviously, not literally, but things evolve. We definitely want to see an increase in the mix in our renovation restoration business. We do a lot of that. We do it real well. We don't, like I said, we don't go out and seek the business as much as we probably should, because we try and stay within our limits of capabilities. And we have a lot of capabilities, but more so, the majority of our work years past has been large new construction or through GCs, which is great. We want to continue that. We've recently kind of leveled those two out and do a nice mix of the two, and want to really try and keep that and maintain that and build some of our specialty divisions up a little bit more.
Very good. Any thought of opening, I don't know, another sector in another part of the country or partnering with another entity to build?
Yeah, we have opportunities all the time that arise. We definitely see some offices in some different markets. Markets we already work in. We already work in other states that we have a lot of work. We have people based in all the major cities in Florida. We have a lot of work in the Jacksonville market, Fort Myers. We kind of service out of Sarasota, Tampa. We're there already. See those markets and those offices growing. I'd like to see them become as big and as independent as our main office, but all that's happening. We're very fortunate enough, and it's really our people and the ability to grow is really only limited to good people, and being able to duplicate people that can work within our systems and our ethics and our legacy, so to speak.
And building something valuable, building a good team around you, something you can sleep, put your head on the pillow and feel good about, And
that's kind of contagious. It happens. And when you build a few good people and they're able to recruit and build a few good people, and we always try and hire your replacement. Some people are scared to do that because they think that they're going to be replaced, but those that are hungry and ambitious get it. And some of them do hire their replacement so they can move forward.
Yeah, if you hire people better than you, a lot of life opens up for you when that happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've done work in Disney. My My son got married on the 25th of April, and we spent a few days in Disney with a big group of people. So I probably saw some of your work somewhere
Yeah.
along the way, you know.
I've been fortunate through the years. We've done some work in both the theme parks and the hotels, and there's some exciting stuff there at all the parks. We enjoy that. Our people enjoy it. I love watching them enjoy it and tell other people about it, or go to the parks and preview the stuff they've worked on.
And you got to do it in the middle of the night, I imagine, or something like that, don't you? I mean, how do you?
Not always. We work on new parks. We just finished some work at a new park, the theme park that's opened here in Orlando, one of Universal's products. And sometimes the work's shut down and it's barricaded and it's a new attraction within it. There are some things that have to be done at night in certain locations, off stage or offset as they call it. It varies. It just depends.
Are you involved in the Universal, that third park that they're building? Or
Epic? Yeah, we did a couple projects in there.
nice, that's fantastic. Okay, so as a business owner, speaking to other business owners, what one or two pieces of advice that you can give them that's not specific to your business, but for you running a company?
If somebody starting up new, you mean, or somebody?
Let's say someone's got, I don't know, $1 million, $2 million business. He wants to take it to 10 plus. What's that trait that he needs to become better at to get there?
One thing that comes to mind is always be learning, always be reading business books, engaged, listening to people, finding people that are successful at what you're doing, maybe not trying to reinvent the wheel, just perfect it or change it a little bit. I think a lot of people just don't want to learn. Some people are really good at finishing, like we talked about, and operational, and some people are idea people. But if you're the idea guy, you got to have somebody who's good at finishing or you got to finish until you have that person. But I think just be open to new ideas and try and solve people's problems. You're successful when you figure out a way to be of use to somebody and solve somebody's problems. I mean, that's really the only real thing that keeps customers coming back. If you don't solve their problems and you make their life harder, it's not going to be good for them. It's not going to be good for you. So try and solve people's problems would be the other thing. I think always be learning, always be trying to improve, and try and be the solution to people's problems.
Yeah. One of the lines I like to share with clients is like, if you could just do two things, you can have a lot less problems. So if someone comes to you and says, hey, Mike, I don't know how to do blah, 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 blah. What do you think I should do? Then your response should be, I don't know. What do you think you should do? Right? If you could just say that one, it's almost like a hot potato. They're throwing it at you, right? And you're going to go, oh, here's what you do, Joe. Boom. They throw it at you and you go, what do you think you should do? And you toss it back at them. And then they go, I don't know. And then follow-up line is, but if you did know, what would you do? And many times they're tossing it onto you because they don't want to take responsibility for figuring it out themselves. So that's all very good.
I can see that, but I think if they knew, they wouldn't ask you necessarily.
That'd be the hope.
My situation when I've been in that, or somebody to throw that back at me, if I'm asking somebody, I really want to know what they think, and sometimes I could listen to what they think I should do, and it might come to me that, hey, that's not what I should do. I should probably do what I thought I would do originally, But I think there's a lot of good advice that you could get from people that are. I was fortunate enough to have some pretty impressive mentors, and I kind of take for granted that that's available to people. Sometimes people become a mentor and they don't even know that they're your mentor. You
that's
just
right.
Mimic them or emulate what they do or how they carry themselves, and that has just as much impact as somebody taking you under your wings. And then I've had people that I've tried to mentor, and they're not really long-term cut out to be mentored. Everybody has their limits and their goals, or their temperature gets to a certain point and they shut down.
That's right.
Everybody's different, but I think that good mentors are super important.
And developing that team. So very good. Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. It's nice to find out more about your company. Thank you so much for your time, and wish you nothing but tremendous success in your future.